Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. I'm joined by Mr. Jeffrey Hatcher, one of my best buddies from Waynesboro, Georgia. He'll be sharing some of his memories and experiences as a law enforcement officer in South Florida. Hey, Jeff, welcome back to the show, man. How's it going?
Hey, Chris, how are you? Glad to be here.
Yeah, pretty good, brother. I'm glad you're here. Recently retired, right?
Yeah, I retired about 6 months ago.
How has it been so far?
Oh, Chris, life is great, man. Life is good. I did retire, but I went back to work, so I'm working now, but a lot less hours, and
Uh-huh.
no
Uh-huh.
holidays and no weekends, and
Oh, I know. I,
you know,
I I remember a lot of calls with you. How long were you in law enforcement?
I spent 23 years in law enforcement.
23?
23 years.
How did you become a police officer?
So that's a good question, Chris. To be honest, I had no intentions of ever becoming a police officer. So
Mm.
God does have a sense of humor. You know,
Oh,
growing
yes,
up,
sir.
you and I went to elementary, middle, and high school together, and I was one of the ones they considered bad kid. So I had no intentions of being a police officer. So I moved to Florida, and I was working for this very, very uh, influential area called
Uh-huh.
Bell Harbor.
Yeah.
I was working on the city side. I wasn't a cop. I was, just doing, city work. And they got a new chief of police, and he came in, and I guess he ran everybody's background, and he found out that I had did some time as a correctional officer. When I was at Savannah State, I was a correctional officer. I don't know if you remember that.
Now
Yeah.
that you mention it, yes.
So he tells me, "Won't you come be a cop?" And I was like, "Nah, I don't want to be a cop." And to be honest, I think maybe 2 years went by,
Uh-huh.
and I kept telling him no. So one day he calls me into his office. This is the chief of police now. I don't work for him. I work for the city.
Okay.
His name is Tom Hunker, the best person to advocate for law enforcement. You should get him on. I
Wow.
mean, yeah, he's phenomenal person. He called me in one day and he said, "Man, you work so hard. Like I see you work so hard." He said, "You have a family?" I said, "Yes, I have a daughter." And I said, "My wife is actually pregnant right now." And he said, "How much money are you making?" And
Uh-huh.
at the time, I might have been making, I don't know, $15 an hour. It wasn't
Right.
much money.
Right.
And I was in his office, and he wrote down on a piece of paper, he said, "This is your starting salary." And he kind of like slid it to me. I picked it up, and the rest is history.
He kind of showed you the money, huh?
Well, he's a money guy.
Okay.
He was a money guy, and just, I mean, he was the type of guy, man, that uh, you know, I remember, because we're from a small town, and I remember we was talking about Burke County, and I walked by his office, and if I'm not mistaken, when I walked out, he said, "Tell when you go back to Burke County, tell Sheriff Corsi I said hello," and it blew my mind. Yeah,
Really?
he was that type guy. So he gave me the opportunity. I was a little nervous because I was one of the oldest guys in my academy class. I was the second
Okay.
oldest guy in my police academy class. When
Okay.
I went in the academy, I think I was already probably in my 30s, my
Hmm.
early, like maybe 30, 32, somewhere around there,
Right.
31. I forget exactly, but I think I was like in my 30s or late 20s, which is some people will say old,
Right.
but once I got into law enforcement, I would love to say that you shouldn't even start law enforcement until you in your 30s or at least 30 years old, because to do that job you have to have some life experiences.
You're right, Jeff. I never thought about that. With respect to having just a, a a full or a better understanding about society in general, how everything works. That has to equip you to be a better police officer. So yeah, that's a great point. What do you think, or what would you say is some of the most misunderstood things about policing or being a police officer specifically?
Uh, if you're asking that question from a civilian side, or if you're asking it from a law enforcement side, I think
Hmm.
that's like a two-part question that we can look at it. Okay, so let's take the law enforcement side first.
Okay.
Um, a lot of times, in policing, especially now with everything that we have seen since, now we have everybody have a, camera and things are being recorded and things happen. From a law enforcement side, I think that when you have a profession of people like law enforcement and everybody has their own perception of what they portray someone else to be. So a lot of times in law enforcement, if you grew like, let's say like you and I, we grew up, we had white friends or whatever. We really didn't have any Hispanics, but we had, white friends. But did we really understand their culture? Did they really understand our culture? So now you're about to bring all these people together, and these people, when you're policing, Chris, you're out on your own. You go through the academy, you get out, and you basically police the way that you perceive things. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? So if you have let's say Hispanic cops or white cops or black cops or whatever, and they perceive things a certain way and you perceive it a certain way, then you're going to respond based off of how you perceive it. Doesn't mean that you're wrong. It's just that you're going to interact how you said, how life dealt with you. And that's how you're going to react. So, you know, that's to me, that's one part of it. The other part of it is civilians. The biggest thing civilians got to understand is cops don't want to do paperwork. So when it comes down to, a shooting or arresting and all this stuff, most cops would try to, that I haven't come encounter with, I can say, would try to give you the benefit of the doubt, believe it or not, when it comes to major things. Because you
Right.
take, for example, a DUI. A DUI is a misdemeanor, right?
Hmm.
A DUI package, to complete a DUI packet is more work than arresting somebody for, Chris, it's a lot of paperwork for a DUI, and it's a misdemeanor. So I think the public needs to understand that a lot of cops, they don't wake up in the morning saying, "Hey, I'm going to work to shoot somebody."
Hmm.
No, that ain't how it works. Trust me on that. I know people may not believe it and that because it does happen, but I can tell you right now, that's not the first thing on their mind because you can lose everything.
Hmm.
So, who wants to work for 25 years and have your retirement and have your pension and have your home and have your family and just go to work to just shoot somebody? I think that the public needs to understand that in law enforcement, you have a short window to make life decisions, very short window to make life decisions. And we can't change it. Like there's nothing you can, I don't know if there's anything you can ever do about it because, I don't know if I asked you, but I know I asked our friend Chris Abrams and some other guys. If Chris Jones is in the middle of a mall or anywhere and there's a crowd of people and I have to keep the peace and I say, Chris, you need to go with me. And you say, you're not going. What's my next move? As a police officer, what's my next move? Do I put hands on you? Do I pull out the taser? Like, how do I get you to go? How long do I stand there with you and go back and forth? Chris, you need to go. Chris, you need to go. I'm not going. So what's my next move? From a civilian, what would you say?
I mean, it's not going to be a good look for that civilian.
Yeah. And back to what I was saying about different cops perceiving things, how you just said. I remember it was like, I don't know, many years ago. Mm-hmm. We had a incident at a construction site, and two African American guys was having an argument, like they was in a heated argument, and the call came out. So when you get calls, when you get dispatched to a call, there's a level of the call. Mm-hmm. So if they put a 3 in it, a 3 means like you need to get there, lights, sirens, you need to get there. It's a big emergency. Okay. So they put it out as a 3 that, a guy had a shovel and they was fighting or whatever the case. I forget exactly, but it was something pertaining to a fight. Mm-hmm. So when we pulled up, my white colleagues and my Spanish colleague, they was all hyper. So I said to them, calm down. There's no fight. I said, because in our culture, if they really wanted to fight, they would have fought by now. So, we kind of laughed it off. But initially when the call went out, it was like an emergency that, oh my God, somebody's killing somebody. But when we got there, all they was doing was just cursing and, going back and forth with each other. But these guys, the cops, they were so hyped because maybe in their culture, they perceive that to be as a real dangerous situation. But in my culture, I was like, they're just having an argument. Like, no one is going to hit anybody. Like, does that make sense to you?
Jeff, that makes complete sense. You touched on it several times. Your lived experiences in your community have shaped how you think, how you will subsequently act and respond. The same for them. You painted the picture initially. These are guys from different, backgrounds, different cultures, ethnicities, right? So they already have their preconceived notions as to what can be. Hence the importance of having someone like you.
Once I got there and I assessed everything, then I already know, like I told them, they wasn't going to fight. Because if they was going to hit each other,
yeah.
If you know anything about us, if we're going to fight, we're going to fight. Like, it ain't like, you ain't going to do too much talking.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, it ain't too much. 1 or 2 words.
Jeff, stay there for 1 second. Do you recall a comparable scenario situation where over time, some of the guys that were with you, that reported to the scene with you, kind of started to learn about the ways in that community?
Yeah, because it's funny that as my career grew, they began to call me the social worker officer, because they said, you're always trying to save people. Like, you're trying to save people. And I said, listen, man, again, it goes back to where we come from. I understood grace, growing up, seeing a parent, having lived myself, wasn't always a police officer. So wasn't, just a young person, I mean, come on, Chris, we grew up in the country, but we did stupid things, threw eggs or whatever the case we used to do, ringing people doorbell.
I did it. I didn't do any of it.
Okay, that's your story. You're sticking to it. Ringing people doorbell and run. We did little stuff as kids. So, all of a sudden, you can't expect for young people not to make mistakes. Mm-hmm. You're going to make mistakes. But as an authority, as a cop or whoever, we get to grab them. Now, if it's a felony and things of that nature, yeah, you got to do what you got to do. But if it's, something minor, it's a teachable moment. And, as people that live life, we ought to think about that. That should help mold our decision on how we're going to handle certain situations. It should mold our decision on how we're going to handle this young person, because with one stroke of the pen, as a police officer, one stroke of the pen, you could really ruin somebody's life.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, some cities, some police departments, they don't have time to do that. But if you work in a place where you have the time to handle every call, and you're not like running call to call, I'm pretty sure in Baltimore they may not have time, because Baltimore, from what I hear, I never lived there, but from what I hear, it's busy, like it's in the city.
Yeah,
so
there's some pockets that are like
right,
that. Yes,
right. So the cops in those areas, they may not have the time to spend 30 minutes talking to a young person about the mistakes they made. Where I worked, I had that leisure, So again, I understand everything around that, and how important that's, Chris, that's super important. Like I said, they begin to call me the social worker cop. And I used to tell cops, I remember a quick story. Where I worked, we had a very high-end mall. All the celebrities, I mean, you name it, they come. All your high-end brands, everything. So I remember some young kids came there and they stole. And I remember some of my colleagues, saying, why these kids just won't get a job, and this and that. So I had to tell them, listen, you can't tell these kids on one hand that pull themselves up and do the right thing, and then on the other hand, you tell the same kid he's a product of his environment. Well, if he's a product of his environment, and his environment is theft and drugs and prostitution and fraud, if he's a product of that, he doesn't know how to pull himself up. Because you can't be a product of your environment, and your environment is full of this, and then you expect for him to make the right decision. So I had to tell my colleagues, like, listen, you take a young child who sees mama, daddy, grandma, whoever they live with. They see mama, daddy, grandma, whoever. They see them go to work every day, but they don't see no fruits from their labor. Now they walk out of the house in that environment, and they see the local neighborhood drug dealer or the fraud man, because now fraud is really big. Now fraud is big. So they see this person. He has food. He has a car. He has nice clothes. He see grandmother go to work. He see that.
Mm-hmm.
But he don't see no fruits from their labor. So if he has to choose who he's going to follow, which way you think he's going? Mm-hmm. So as law enforcement, and someone asked me a question one time, I really didn't have an answer.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, is it law enforcement responsibility to help raise kids or whatever? And when you think about it, I'm like, the cop in me want to say yes, that it takes a village. But in all reality, is that what cops should be doing? Or should be...
Jeffrey Hatcher in a cop's body would want to do that.
Of course.
But the cop in itself, given your role and responsibilities for that entire, it's not possible.
So it makes it that much difficult, because, to do the job, it makes it that much difficult, because now on one hand, you're a cop, you got to enforce laws.
Right.
On the other hand, you're a father and you have compassion for people. So you got to separate those two to be able to say, you know what? Okay, I can show some grace in this situation, but then in this situation, hey man, listen, I can't do nothing for, like, you gotta go. And
and you touched on a few minutes ago about having time, not having time, so much is going on. Everything you're saying, though, underscores the importance, no matter the specific position or role, to have some compassion. We throw that at policemen, law enforcement officers all the time, and that is true. You're supposed to protect and serve. And seemingly, a lot of the conversations that I had with guys over the years, especially here throughout Baltimore, they don't. He's not here to serve me, right? She's not here to protect me. Yeah, they're here to hound me, hassle me, to exacerbate things, to make. They don't like de-escalation. What's that, right? There, a lot of their experiences, they've seen a lot of cops, in particular, um, take almost like intentionally take things to the next level in lieu of diffusing the situation. Mm-hmm. So it's just good knowing that there was a Jeffery Hatcher out there, and I know your level of compassion for people, but I know at the same time it's a hard job. I know that.
Yeah, it is, Chris, especially when you're not even like when you're prejudged before you even get a chance to help. That's one of the hardest things that I had to like swallow, as a cop, when you don't know me. So I pull up. You don't know if I'm gonna help you. You don't know if I'm gonna hurt you. You don't know anything. So why just go straight to the hurt? Why not go to the help?
Right.
And I was talking to my barber, and he said to me, Jeff, the reason being because if all my, he said, I think he used a scenario like if I had a bag and the bag had snakes in it, and every time I stuck my hand in that bag, I get bit by a snake, I'm going to be very reluctant to stick my hand in that bag. So if I've been dealing with cops and all I ever got was bad reactions, I'm not going to be, I say, okay, I understand. However, I guess the part of me that's the good part of me is saying, however, I still got to give you the benefit of the doubt, because if I need your help, I need your help. So if I did wrong and I know I did wrong, I can't turn around then and say like, hey man, listen, I did wrong, but I don't want to go to jail. I don't know if it does it don't really work like that. Like, you did wrong. Now,
right.
If I can help you, okay, maybe I'll help you. But what does that look like? And what did you do? And, what are we faced with? So, yes, that's a big part, especially when, like I said, when it's a young person. Like, I'm in a position now where I retired. I'm a director. I can hire people.
Mm-hmm.
And I told a young man the other day, I said, listen, I had two candidates. One of them had an arrest, and it wasn't a big arrest, but it was an arrest. And one of them never been arrested. So now, this is why I try to teach young people. You have two people in front of you. Chris Jones has his own company, whatever. You have two people in front of you. One of them never been arrested. One of them been arrested. Who do you hire? What you say about cops and the de-escalation?
Mm-hmm.
They do teach that, and I'm listen, respect police, love police.
Uh-huh.
That's how I took care of my family. And they do have classes on that. But again, I think that goes back to one of the first questions you asked me about policing. I think society needs to understand that these people, they're humans too. They're not superheroes. A cop, you know this because you and I friends. We travel together. I do the same thing you do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I wake up in the morning. I take my kids to school when they were younger. I teach them to drive. I coach their basketball. I just put a uniform on and go to work and enforce the laws.
Is there a situation that you were involved in that really stands out?
Yeah. It's so many. But there's one, since you're in Baltimore, there's one that stands out, and it was related to Baltimore.
Mhm.
So, like I told you, I worked in a very, super rich area, very nice area, part of Miami-Dade County. Uh, so one day, I see this old gentleman. He's at a bus stop. But as I'm looking at him, as I'm driving my patrol car, I'm looking at him, and I see stickerberries on his pants.
Hmm.
I'm like, why this guy got stickerberries on his pants? Like, there's no stickerberries around here, right? So I stop the car, I go up to him, and I start talking to him. And he tells me that he walked. He's an older man. He said he walked from Miami International Airport to where I work, which is like all the way to the beach, to the Atlantic Ocean. Like, you can't go no further east.
Mm-hmm.
The airport is all the way west. I'm talking Miami International is, Chris, it's
Yeah, I'm picturing it now. Like,
yeah. So I'm like, you walked. So as I'm talking to him, he couldn't tell me much about him. So I was like, something's not right. So I called my supervisor, and my supervisor, he was like, look, the guy's an adult. He's not missing. We can't just arbitrarily just take this guy and do whatever we want to do with him. But it just didn't sit right with me, Chris. So I kept digging. He had a backpack. I asked him if he mind if I look in it and everything. He couldn't give me no phone numbers. He didn't know where he was. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't know anything. So to make a long story short, I went through his backpack. I found some medication, pill bottles or whatever. They had the phone number on it. I called the phone number. It was to like a Walgreens or CVS or whatever it was that was in Baltimore. And I called them, told them who I was, yada, yada, yada. They was able to give me a phone number for a loved one. I called the loved one. And guess what, Chris? This old man was, maybe he had the first stages of Alzheimer's or whatever.
uh-huh.
He was flying from Baltimore back to Jamaica.
What?
Yes. But he was on the plane. They put him on the plane in Baltimore, and he was supposed to stay on the plane, and then somebody from the airline I won't say what airline, was supposed to get him off the plane.
Kind of the escort
and
thing.
put him
Yeah.
on the next plane. And then when he got to Jamaica, the Bahamas, wherever he was going, his family was going to receive him. Well, anyway, when the plane landed in Miami from Baltimore, he some kind of way he sneaked off. He got off the plane. So
Jeff, you never shared this with me.
I never told you the story?
Oh.
I don't know, man. I have so many of these stories. So anyway, I called the family. I called the CVS or whatever, got the family number. I was able to call the family. They was like, thank you, God. We looking for him. I say, I have him. So
wow.
My supervisor at the time, he was like, we short-staffed today. We're going to have to put him in a cab back to the airport.
Uh-huh.
I said, I'm not putting him in a cab. So he goes, well, I don't have the manpower to let you take him out to the airport. I said, listen, you can fire me. You can write me up. If you don't let me use my police car, I'm going to sit the man here, tell him to stay here. I'm going to clock out. I'm going to go home and get my personal car and come back and take him to the airport.
Right.
So just so happened, the captain pulled up on the scene, and he heard everything, and he said, Hatcher, that's what you would do, yes. And he told the sergeant, why would you tell him no? So the sergeant was like, look, the sergeant wasn't saying it in a bad way. He was just saying, like, we don't have the manpower for you to leave, to take him to the airport. I said, well, we're going to have to get another agency to help. We got to do something. But I'm not going to put this guy, because if I put him in the cab and he get to the airport, The cab don't know where to go, like that. So what I did was I called the airlines. Yes, they was looking for him. I said, I have them. I said, I'll meet you guys. They told me where to meet them at and everything. So I drove him to the airport, and his family, Chris, when I tell you, I lost contact with him, but I thought I told you the story.
No, and I mentioned it because of the Baltimore connection. No,
Right.
you never mentioned this.
And the family called me, man, like every day for like a week thanking me. And I was like, I felt like I didn't do nothing special. I felt like I just did my job.
Wow.
It just has to be a part of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be a part of who you are. You know, I had another colleague that, you know, sometimes it seemed like he liked their people. And I said to him one day, I said, listen, man, how could you do this job and you don't like people? You don't want to talk to nobody. You just want to stay locked up in your police car. Like, how? How? I said, so you're telling me that I don't like you, but if somebody go to shooting, I got to run to the call to save you, and I don't even like people? That makes no sense to me. I got to like people. If I'm going to put the uniform on, no matter where you work, you can work in Beverly Hills. It doesn't matter. I mean, again, that goes back, and I mean, we can dig into it deeper, maybe in another series, but that goes back to, is it really my job as a cop to like you? Is it really my job to help you? Or is it my job to say, listen, you were speeding, here's your ticket. You was DUI, you're going to jail. Or you stole out of the mall, you're going to jail. Does society, you know, I don't know if I'm asking this right. Is that something that we all should be saying, this is what we want from our police? Because, Chris, nobody wants to go to jail. In my whole career, and I didn't take many people to jail. That wasn't my thing, to be honest with you. I didn't take many people to jail, but the ones I did, no one came and said, here, take me. I did wrong.
Right. Right.
Nobody wants to go. Nobody wants a ticket. But guess what? The speed limit will be right there in front of you. 60 miles per hour. You still go 90. And no one, I think some people I have stopped, and I think they do it to try to like manipulate the conversation and be like, hey, I was speed, I was wrong, hoping that they're going to get them out of the ticket.
Yep.
Sometimes it do. Sometimes it don't. You know?
Oh, man. So, Jeff, thanks for sharing that story about the man. And I absolutely had no idea what direction that was going to go into.
As a matter of fact, it's funny, right? Watch this. Just so happened I have this. This is what I got for doing that.
Oh, wow.
That's what I got for this is what I got for that old man. This is what the department gave me.
Man, that is really nice.
It just so happened. It wasn't planned for that to be here. I have I have a bunch of stuff that, like, since I retired, nice. Like I had this at work, and I have a lot of plaques and everything from when I coached and help kids, and I'm trying to find somewhere to put all this stuff. So it just so happened that this was out. So I don't want anybody to think that this wasn't planned. I promise you it wasn't planned.
You mentioned Bell Harbor. That's the right pronunciation, right? Bell or Ball? Bell?
Some people say Bell Harbor. Some people say Ball Harbor.
I've asked you that before. Yeah. You mentioned Bell Harbor and the mall that's there, and ritzy glam type area. Who are some of the coolest people that you've met there? What type of people?
So I mostly work with. The area is predominantly Jewish. And one guy, I'm not going to call his name, but I saw him last night. We went. All I'm gonna say is Mr. Philadelphia. You remember where we went for the boys' weekend?
I'm already tracking. I do remember. Yes.
So I saw him I bumped into him last night. I was at dinner with another friend, and
Okay.
him and his dad walked in, and we
Oh,
hadn't even seen each other or spoken probably since the boys' weekend in Philly. That was back in October.
okay. Yeah.
We gave each other the biggest hug. I will say this for young people, and I think you and I talked about this off air. For young people, law enforcement, if used right, could be a great asset
Mm-hmm.
for just the connections and everything. Some of the guys joke because they tell me that this for me, this is over $1 billion Rolodex. Like it's serious, and it all came from from law enforcement, and not just from law enforcement. I have to stop saying that, and my pastor tell me to take some credit because I did the work to get the favor, but law enforcement has granted
That's
me and my
right.
family.
That's right, Pastor.
Yeah, law enforcement has granted me and my family a lot of favor.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
No,
so
good
I
deal.
can't call a name, but it's just because it's too many.
Good deal.
It's too many people that has over the last 20 something years that has helped me with finances and
Mm-hmm.
investments
Mm-hmm.
and just my kids and writing letters of recommendation for them to get into colleges and just it's just too many.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
I can
just
imagine.
it's just too many.
I can imagine. I mean, you've done it for so long, and that particular place, first and foremost, which, yeah, have exposed you and avail
From
you
from
to so many.
from rabbis all the way
Mhm.
down to just regular people,
Entertainers,
entertainers. Yeah,
everybody. Yeah.
everybody. Yeah,
I, I, I,
I met a lot of people.
I, I, I remember some of the guys that you met, so it's all good. If I like asking this question, if you were in charge of policing, and I don't even know at what level, police chief there, um, another organization, the FBI director, in any type of enforcement official, like if you were in charge for a year, Jeff, what are like one of the two primary things you would change?
Uh, Intelligence,
Mm,
sharing information.
okay.
Sometimes we get certain scams or certain information, and it tells you not for the public or not to share with the public or whatever the case may be. I would definitely like to share all of that to keep people from becoming victimized. Um, Another thing too, I think, is young people. College is not for everybody. I went to college. I didn't graduate. I remember my dad. It's funny because my first year at Savannah State, my financial aid hadn't came in, and my dad had to pay. And you know, people know he probably. I'm pretty sure he had the means. But anyway, he said to me, and it was funny, but it was truthful. At the time, I felt like he was being mean, but he was being truthful. He said, and I don't want to curse, but I'm gonna say this word. He said, "Why in the hell you want to go to college? You didn't do nothing in high school." That was the truth.
I remember that story.
It was true. And I gotta love my dad because he was like, "Why?" But guess what? He gave me the money,
Oh
and I
man.
went to college. But you know, so but when I became a cop, and I look back at it, and I
Hmm.
said, if I would have went right out of high school into a career like law enforcement or firefighter or something like that, Chris, I don't think these young people really, and I'm gonna look dead in the camera when I say this, and this ain't to brag, this is try to help young people. I don't think young people understand the type of living that if you became a law enforcement agent at a law enforcement officer at a young age, the type of life that you could actually live. Maybe not everywhere because it's all relative, to where you are. Maybe Georgia don't pay what Baltimore pay, or Miami or whatever. However, you could live a very, very good life.
As we just touched on, the folks that you've met, the relationships that you've cultivated over the years, right? Folks that you still run into, and it's just they're like family now, right?
Yeah.
I've heard the stories, I've seen it, I've met some of the folks that you mentioned and referred to. I've heard a lot of positive things, and if you're doing it for the proverbial right reason, um, it could really be a life worth living, to your points. And I've seen it through you firsthand. So as I said earlier, I know it's a difficult job. In some areas are more difficult, if you will, than others. Get it, got it. You can say that for a lot of different, careers or specific jobs. But it's cool stuff to me, man. I've seen what it could do.
Yeah, and
So,
and 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 it's funny you say that, but I think that's probably another conversation for another day when you say do it for the right reason. Because
uh-huh, uh-huh.
if that's why earlier I said I don't think you should even become a cop until you're like 30, because here's another caveat, and this is probably another longer conversation. If you're not mentally strong and grounded in what your beliefs are and things like that, yeah, there are some bad law enforcement. That's just true. I don't know if I should say bad law enforcement or some bad practices, and you can get sucked in. But if you're already mature, and like for me, I was married, had a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I understood who I was as a person when I became a cop. So
Right.
another quick little story before we go. When I was in the academy, I don't know if I ever told you, I almost got thrown out of the academy because I had an instructor in the academy, and he kept saying, that we can arrest people, we can arrest people, we can arrest people. And he said something. He said, we as police, we have more power than the president. Because right now,
Yes.
the president can't come and take away your freedom. He can't come and put you in handcuffs. He can't. So what I said to him was, that's what this is about? That's it? Just arresting people? And he called my chief. So if you work around cops, that if you work around cops and your department has that mentality, and you're a young person, yeah, you can get sucked into that to where, now you have no compassion for people because, you're sucked in. But, that's why I said, for me personally, I think that you should be at least 30 years old before you even become a cop. Is that realistic? Probably not, because of the turnover factor and things of that nature. You can't wait till you're 30, but because your mind is not developed. I mean, think about, you go to a domestic violence call. You're 22 years old. You're not married. You live at home with mom and dad. Chris Jones is a 50-some-year-old man that's having an altercation, an argument, a disagreement with his wife. Do you really know how to handle that?
Mm-hmm.
You're 22 years old. You're not even married. Like, do you
Right.
really know how to handle that? Probably not. Yeah, you're going to go based off the script, what the book says.
Yep.
And our lives are not books. Yeah, we write it as a book, but you got to be able to look at the whole totality of a situation and say, okay, he's having an argument with his wife, because guess what? If you've been married, you're going to have an argument. That's
Right.
going to happen.
Yeah.
But how mature are you now you have a 22-year-old kid. I remember another quick story, really quick. I remember a kid cop telling a married man in his house to shut up and stand over there.
Yeah.
The guy goes, what? Who are you talking to?
Right.
Like, it's my house. I'm a man. You can't tell me to shut up in my house. So, but I was really good at de-escalation. Like I was really, really good at it. I was just good with people. I thank God for that. Like,
Yeah. You've always been that way.
Yeah, always, my whole life. I never had a problem helping anybody. I remember when we was in college and I started working at Sam's. When I got to Sam's, the whole Burke County came to Sam's. Me, Kyle, Corey, Dooley, Roll, Larry from Augusta. Man, we had the whole, between Ripon County and Burke County, we had the whole Sam's. When I got on, everybody come get on. I always been that, always been that type of person to where, man, listen, I don't mind helping. Like, let's eat, you know?
Right.
And carry on to law enforcement.
So I just created the banner. Part 1. Policing in America, Part 1. Because yes, there's a lot I would like to unpack around this subject, around this topic. And there's a lot of different directions we can go in, as you know firsthand.
Oh yeah.
Man, any parting words about policing in general, Jeff?
Yes, I would give people this, and it's not a bad thing. Whenever you encounter a police, whether it's speeding or whatever, please just try to comply. Doesn't mean that the cop is right. Doesn't mean that you abide down. I teach this to my kids. I tell my kids all the time, if you're driving and the cop stop you and he tells you that you was going 80 and you know you wasn't going 80, do not, under no circumstances, fight or fuss with him on side of the road, because you're not going to win that battle. So, and not every cop, like back to that situation with the snake. Yes, it may be snakes in the bag, but give every person the opportunity before you just prejudge them. Just give them the opportunity, because that cop may be a good cop. And if he's not, and he gives you a ticket or he take you to jail for something that you did, accept it and just move on with your life. You know, that's what I would, say for now. I mean, for this first part 1, till we do another part. Just try to comply. That's
Jeff,
it.
Boy, we've all had several sidebars about this, and that word, comply. I think people what gets lost in the sauce is what folks think it should look like. Just kind of keep the peace and don't even allow things, create the environment for things to escalate.
If he said you was going 100, you weren't going 100. You standing on the side of the road, fussing and fighting with him.
Don't get all belligerent. You're right.
Nothing's going to change. If he says that you was going speeding and you say, I'm not speeding. Well, you were speeding. I'm not speeding. You're speeding. I'm not speeding. He's going to write you a ticket. And you can't, there's nothing you can do.
Win.
You're not going to win that fight.
Yeah.
So learn how. And that's another conversation for another topic, Chris. I'm not going to go there. But culturally, as African-American people, we have to learn to control our emotions when we're dealing with the police. Just tell the officer, hey, here's my license, here's my registration, here's my insurance. That's it. Hey, I was speeding. I'm sorry. That's it. If you wasn't, and you wasn't, at that time in that place, it's still not the time to debate that. You don't debate that. You debate it in court. You go to court. And then if you feel you wasn't, you want to go to court, you go to court. You let the judge hear your story. That's our process in America.
Right.
It may not be the best. It may have some flaws, but it's better than a lot of other places. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So, I would love to do a series on just teaching, how to respond. That's it. Because you're not, I can assure you, if he won, you're not going to win.
This is it goes without saying. This is definitely information people at large need. Think about it for a minute, related to some situations that you may have personally been in, and kind of think about, what? Yeah, I heard what Jeff said, and I probably could have handled that situation differently. I just thought it was perfect that I knew you were coming on to like, hold up, let me pivot this just a little bit and make the first episode about a topic as impactful as this one, policing in America, from someone who has been there, done that, well over 20 years.
And Chris, the one thing I would love to add, if your viewers are watching this, have a conversation, with your young people, and if they could get a hold of you, get a hold of me. I would tell you, if you have a young person right now, financially, and they haven't been in trouble and they're young and they don't want to go to college, or you don't have the money to go to college right now, to consider law enforcement. It's not a bad.
And Jeff, just to quickly add to what you're saying there, I think most of us know by now the importance of having more policemen that look like us, policing us.
That's another
goes back to the first part of what you said.
And also at the same time, a lot of departments have tuition reimbursement and things of that nature. So, just slow everything down, man. Like, watch this series, with your kids. If you're an adult and you're watching this, watch it with your kids and pick up the phone and reach out to me, Chris, whatever, any kind of way you can. And, I would talk to you. I don't even care if you're in Baltimore, New York, California. I don't care. If you see this video, I would talk to you and tell your kid that, it's not a bad profession. It's a great profession, and it needs good people. People make this profession.
Right.
It needs good people, and you could live a good life. It's not all about money, but what's more rewarding than helping someone else?
Right.
There's nothing more rewarding than helping someone else.
My brother, when I say, I think I just said two parts. Make that probably 3 or 4.
Believe it or not, a lot of it started at the law enforcement level. To changing laws and, Congress and, at the grassroots level. It's policing.
Right.
You know what I'm
saying? And something real key, what you said a few minutes ago, we need more good people who are policemen. Yeah. Jeff, I appreciate you coming on here, brother.
Oh, don't leave without saying, look at them Falcons hanging behind you. See that, right?
I see the Falcons, Jeff. That's why I wanted to span the view to make sure the Dirty Birds were on display. My homeboy, I appreciate you joining me, man, and we're going to talk about this again real soon so we can coordinate.
All right, Chris. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. And to the audience, thanks for tuning in. Like the video and any other recording that resonates with you. Leave a comment and share. Subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to click that notification bell. This is another way we creatively inform and inspire, helping people write the lives they desire. Until the next time, take care.